The reason people ignore you is not because you're unimportant. It's because you're always there, always reachable, always responsive, always ready, always adjusting. And the moment people realize they never have to work to access you, your value drops. Not emotionally, psychologically. You think being available makes you reliable. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. And predictable things lose urgency. If someone texts you, you reply in minutes. If someone calls, you answer instantly. If someone needs something, you rearrange your schedule. You think you're being mature. What you're actually doing is removing all tension, and tension is what creates importance. When there's no risk of losing you, there's no reason to prioritize you. When there's no delay in access, there's no anticipation. When there's no boundary around your time, there's no weight to your presence. People don't consciously say, "He's too available." They feel something else. They feel comfort. And comfort rarely commands respect. You become the person who is always there when needed, but rarely needed urgently. You become the one who understands everyone, but no one adjusts for you. You become easy to reach, easy to schedule, easy to move, and easy to overlook. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually. A slower reply from them, a canceled plan, a meeting moved without asking you first, a decision made without including you. Not because they dislike you, because they assume you'll adapt. You train them. You train them that your time is flexible, that your attention is guaranteed, that your presence is permanent. And permanence without boundaries feels replaceable. Strong men are not distant. They are deliberate. They don't disappear. They decide. They don't ignore messages. They respond when it aligns. They don't play games. They protect time. Availability without selectivity creates imbalance. If your life revolves around being reachable, you communicate something subtle. I have nothing more important. And that perception is dangerous. Because respect grows when people feel your time is structured, not chaotic. When your schedule feels intentional, not adjustable at will. When your presence feels chosen, not automatic. Scarcity is not manipulation, it's clarity. You are not available all the time. You are available when it makes sense. You do not respond instantly. You respond deliberately. You do not rearrange yourself immediately. You evaluate. And the moment that shift happens, energy changes. People pause before expecting. They check before assuming. They adjust before moving forward. Because now there is friction. And friction creates awareness. Awareness creates value. Value creates respect. You don't need to be colder. You don't need to be louder. You need to stop orbiting other people's timing. The more you chase availability, the more you lose gravity. The more you center your own schedule, the more gravity builds. And gravity makes people move around you. Over-availability doesn't look dramatic. It looks normal. That's why it's dangerous. It shows up in small behaviors. You answer messages instantly, even when you're busy. You say, "No problem," even when it is a problem. You rearrange plans, even when it costs you something. You pick up calls, even when you need space. And every time you do this automatically, you send one signal: my time is adjustable. Under pressure, this becomes obvious. Someone cancels last minute. Instead of holding your frame, you say, "It's okay. We can reschedule whenever." Someone delays responding to you. You double text. Someone moves a meeting without asking. You adapt without questioning. You think you're being cooperative. But cooperation without boundaries creates imbalance. Strong men cooperate, but they don't collapse. There's a difference. When your availability is constant, people stop measuring their behavior around you. They assume flexibility, and assumption removes respect. Under pressure, over-availability shows up like this. You respond too quickly to tension. You clarify too fast. You reassure immediately. You try to smooth things out before silence even has time to exist. That speed communicates anxiety, not externally, energetically. It says, I don't want friction. But friction is where positioning happens. If someone pulls away slightly and you immediately lean in harder, you reduce your leverage. If someone becomes distant and you increase effort, you confirm imbalance. Availability amplifies imbalance. The more you give access, the less people feel urgency to protect it. This is especially visible in professional environments. If you always answer immediately, you become operational, not strategic. If you always adapt to last-minute changes, you become dependable, but not influential. If your time feels unlimited, your presence feels optional. Optional presence never commands authority. Over-availability also kills anticipation. When someone texts you and knows you'll reply in 2 minutes, there's no anticipation. When someone invites you and knows you'll say yes, there's no effort. Effort is what builds perceived value. Remove effort, remove value. You don't need to create artificial scarcity. You need to create real structure. Structure means you don't answer immediately if you're busy. You don't agree instantly if you need to think. You don't rearrange automatically. You pause. And that pause does something powerful. It forces recalibration. People start wondering, is he available? Instead of assuming, that small shift restores gravity. Availability should be a choice, not a reflex. When availability becomes a reflex, respect slowly evaporates. Not because people are malicious, because humans value what feels limited. Time is limited. Attention is limited. Access is limited. If you present them as unlimited, you reduce your own weight. You're not over-available because you're disciplined. You're over-available because you're afraid. Not afraid of people. Afraid of losing position. Afraid of being replaced. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of not being chosen. Over-availability is rarely about kindness. It's about control. You believe that if you stay reachable, useful, responsive, you'll secure your place. If you answer fast, they won't drift. If you say yes, they won't replace you. If you adapt, they won't leave. But here's the paradox. The more you try to secure your position through availability, the less stable your position becomes. Because you communicate dependency. Strong presence does not chase relevance. It assumes relevance. When you respond instantly to everything, you're trying to maintain importance. When you adjust your schedule automatically, you're trying to stay needed. When you over-communicate under tension, you're trying to prevent distance. That's anxiety in disguise. And people feel anxiety, not consciously, energetically. Over-availability under pressure often sounds like, just let me know what works for you. I'm flexible. No worries, I can adjust. I'm free whenever. You think you're being easy to deal with? But what you're actually doing is removing your own weight from the equation. Weight creates negotiation. No weight creates assumption. If your time never feels structured, it never feels protected. If it never feels protected, it never feels valuable. Most men become over-available because they learned early that being useful equals being valued. So they maximize usefulness. But usefulness without boundaries creates transactional relationships. You become the guy people go to when they need something, not when they want alignment. You become accessible, not prioritized. There's also another layer. Over-availability feels productive. It feels like movement. You're answering, engaging, responding, solving. But constant reaction is not power, it's reactivity. Power requires restraint. When you are always reacting to incoming demands, you are not leading your time. You are managing other people's impulses. And leadership, even in social dynamics, requires selectivity. When someone reaches out, your response should be a decision, not a reflex. If your availability is automatic, you lose leverage. Leverage is not manipulation, it's positioning. The less dependent you are on being constantly engaged, the more stable your presence becomes. Strong men are not hard to reach. They are hard to move. There's a difference. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't rush to reply under pressure. They don't rush to secure validation. They allow space. And space creates tension. Tension creates awareness. Awareness creates respect. If you remove all space, you remove all tension. And if there is no tension, there is no gravity. The moment you stop being constantly available, something interesting happens. Nothing explodes, no dramatic confrontation, just a shift. You stop replying instantly, you stop rearranging automatically, you stop chasing alignment, and people notice. Not because you disappeared, because you changed rhythm. When your responses are no longer immediate, your time feels structured. When your schedule isn't endlessly flexible, your life feels prioritized. When you don't rush to secure attention, your presence feels stable. Over-availability makes you reactive. Selective availability makes you grounded. And grounded men create gravity. You don't need to ignore people. You don't need to play games. You simply respond when it fits your pace. You agree when it aligns with your priorities. You delay when necessary, without guilt. That small delay creates space. Space creates awareness. Awareness creates recalibration. People start checking before assuming. They start asking instead of expecting. They start adjusting instead of moving you. Because now there's friction, and friction creates weight. When you stop orbiting others, others begin to orbit you. Not because you manipulated the dynamic, because you stopped giving unlimited access. Respect doesn't grow from constant availability. It grows from controlled access. You don't become colder, you become deliberate. You don't become distant, you become structured. And structure signals strength. The moment your time feels intentional, your presence feels intentional. And intentional presence is rarely ignored.